So today I want to talk about the practical, more pragmatic aspect of digital balance and what it means to be practically inclined when you want to diminish your internet time. Not completely, of course, because as I've said in previous videos, we are living in a time where you can't bypass the internet and digital life. So our goal is to bring that down, the weekly hours down, to a healthy, sustainable level. And when I started in 2020, or 2021 rather, I basically had to find out how many hours approximately would be beneficial for my mental health. So I went from 37 to 40 hours a week of playing video games, internet time on my cell phone, and I brought it down to 12 hours. And I've specifically created something called the 12-hour model, which is basically a model that mimics the hours that we used to spend in 2007 or 6 before the first iPhone came out. Because the reason I chose that in my book that I've written, everything that I'm talking about on this channel is from that manuscript and that book. Links in the description, by the way. The reason I chose 12 hours is because the mental health graphs were much more positive, and depression was down, anxiety was down. So that's why I chose the 12 hours throughout the week to be the ideal model for me to have throughout the week. So what I started doing in 2021 when I changed my whole relationship to digital life was to go down to 12 hours. And I delegated. In the beginning, it's important that you delegate those 12 hours specifically to specific days throughout the week. The reason I say that is because your brain needs to not have any gray zones. Where I'm at now, I'm in 2025, and I do an approach called the bank account approach, where I have a certain amount of hours, 12 hours throughout the week that I chip off whenever I want. But I'm going to talk about that in another video. In this specific video, it's all about having specific days delegated to internet time. And since you have 12 hours a week, you have to divide those 12 hours into those specific days. And when you do that, you obviously have days where you have to be offline to make that equation go up. Let me just go straight to it and tell you what I mean. Okay, so as you can see, I've made this table with the weekdays and delegated 12 hours to these 4 days. That means that, I have 12 hours divided on 4 days. And that obviously, as you can see, gives me 0 hours, 3 days a week. So that means that some days a week I'm supposed to be and forced to be offline, which is very fortunate. So obviously you can do this in many different ways. You can delegate those 12 hours to 6 days a week, which makes it 2 hours a day. But the reason why I started my journey with this specific way of doing it is because as someone who's addicted to the internet and someone who is addicted to being online all the time, it's important that the brain doesn't have any gray zones. The brain you should start with a system where there is no choice. For instance, on Monday, as you can see, when you come to a Monday, you're not supposed to be online. And there is no ifs and buts or anything like that. In the bank account approach, which I will talk about in a later video, I can tell you that you can choose however you want. But as I started this journey in 2021, it was important for me to know that on Mondays I can't be online. On Tuesdays, I can spend time online again, as you can see, 3 hours. And that's plenty of time to kind of balance yourself and also have fun on the internet. On Wednesdays, 0 hours. On Thursdays, 3 hours. On Friday, 0 hours. And then you have what I purposely did which is to place 3 hours on double days. So on Saturday and Sunday, I have my reward throughout the week. You can call it a reward, but it's not really a reward. It's just how the setup was. But in my mind, that was the incentive for me to have those internet-free days. And the reason why I prefer this setup instead of a 2-2-2 setup, which also makes it 12 hours, but every day, is because you teach your brain to be offline. You actually give your brain 24 hours to be offline. And 2 hours each day is, you're not really giving your brain time to be without the internet. So you're not practicing your brain to be offline, even though it's the same 12 hours. So I prefer the one above, the one on the top. For someone who's severely addicted, I wasn't severely addicted to the internet. I was addicted and I spent my time on the internet all the time, but I wasn't like extremely addicted. I didn't have to be, go to a clinic or whatever. I've heard that there are clinics in South Korea that basically try to veer you off the internet, but it wasn't such an extreme case for me. For such a person, it would be better to maybe start off, as I write in my book, on a beginner level, where you don't give yourself 12 hours in the beginning. You don't start off with 12 hours a week, but you start off with, I don't know, what I wrote was 18 hours, I think. And then that means that you have, the 18-hour model would be something like this. 3 hours, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 1 day offline. For instance, for someone who spends 7 hours a day otherwise, 3 hours a day is actually a good start. And therefore I say in my book that 18 hours a week is actually a good starting point, because it's really difficult for someone who averages 40 hours a week to go down to 12 hours right away. So maybe 18 hours is better. And then you obviously have the 15-hour model, which is also healthy levels, I would say. And then I would, again, delegate those not to 2 hours per day, because I want to make sure that my brain is used to being offline 24 hours and give myself the ability to be offline 24 hours. In a 15-hour model, which is basically the normal mode of this whole thing, 12 hours is the ideal, I would say. 18 hours is easy. 15 hours is what I would call the normal mode of this game, if you want to call it that. And that will be 3 hours divided on 5, right? So I would do it like, not 5, but 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, something like this. It doesn't matter where the days are, but the 15-hour model actually gives you 2 offline days per week. And then you have these 4 days of a reward, you can call it that. But yeah, this is what I wanted to say. If you want to start off on this journey of digital minimalism or digital balance, it's healthy for you to have a setup like this. I would start off with delegated days specifically for offline activities, and I would also have specific online days to be sure that there are no gray zones. Because in the beginning, as I said, and I want to repeat, it's good to repeat. I want to repeat what I said. It's important that you don't have any gray zones. Your brain should know that today I'm supposed to be offline, so I'm offline all day, and tomorrow I'll be online and have fun, and the day after that I'll be offline again. It's important that your brain knows what it means to be offline and when to be offline, so that in the future you actually have the ability to be offline 24 hours. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say today. Make sure that when you start on this digital balance thing, to have specific days delegated for online and offline time, so that you know that when to be offline and online. And everything I talk about here is from my book that I wrote a couple of years ago, or actually last year. So if you want to have the material in its full scope, read the book. Links in the description below. And I hope it serves as a practical guide. It's basically a very practical guide with step-by-step models that can teach you how to be offline, and also what analog activities you can do when you have offline days. What counts as internet time, what counts as digital time, what doesn't count. Everything is in the book, and it's in the description below. I put a lot of love in it because I feel like people need that info right now. So if you want to check it out, it's in the description. I hope you like it. And that's it. Peace.